You are watching Cable 10, Aurora, Illinois Community Access Channel.
Hello, Carnies, and welcome to our latest edition of Sideshow, where we break down, once again, the Paul Lynn Halloween special.
Part 7.
This couple days after Halloween, so everybody should be waking up from a sugar coma now. Or not. I'm not ready to be up. But this is Jacques.
I'm Joe.
And today we have our friend Jonathan.
Hi.
So Jonathan, we've run into recently, is the end-all and be-all of Arlington Cable. Isn't that their title on the card? What is the exact title? I thought it said King of All Life's Event.
I thought it said Second Coming.
Yeah, exactly. God's other son.
I think my coworkers might think that's what I want to put on my card sometimes. But I'm the production manager at Arlington Community Media.
We'll give a little backstory to how Joe and I became friends in the first place, or how we came to know each other. I think.
Yeah, this is sort of an origin story for us.
You know, I think friends is pushing.
Yeah.
I was I had a band, and I found out that this is way back in like the early 90s about a magazine that tracked music video play, like Music Video Play. It was a spinoff of CMJ, the College Music Journal. Mm-hmm. And I was a film major at a school that we'll get to in a bit. And
Yeah.
And so I had access to great film equipment, and luckily our band had a couple people who were really working professionals in the film industry in Boston. A guy, Greg Narkunis, who sadly passed away, about maybe 15, 20 years ago. But he owned the best 16 millimeter cameras in the entire state, and that's no exaggeration. He had a company that rented them. On weekends, he would shoot real music videos for us, which was funny. We didn't have money to go into a studio and do like proper demos and recordings, but we had the best music videos in the city of Boston. At the same time, bands like Dinosaur Jr. and the Pixies are putting out videos. Our videos looked great. Who the hell's going to see them? So somebody told me about cable access. So I started a cable access show out of Lexington and became part of the charting services, where weekly you had to put in your playlist and all this stuff. And I was able to find out, like, all the record labels would send you tons. Like every week I would get 30 music videos. We would only play 2 or 3 or 4, and we did the show every other week. But I had all these 3/4 that I would then tape our stuff on, call all the other access things first around Massachusetts and then around New England and then around the country and say, hey, I played in the band under one name, managed under the other, and said, hey, I produce this show. There's this band I like. I kept our videos short, so they were only there were all these punk songs that were 60 seconds, 90 seconds long. It's like, hey, can you just roll the credits over them as long as you reported it? And we started getting reported like as a top 10 video on a regular basis, and the label people who were friends with us like, how are you guys? You don't have an album and you're charting in the video world. And then while I was doing that, the guy who ran the station, the U of Lexington back then, says, hey, there's these kids trying to get this show off the ground.
Never did.
And it's pretty good. You want to, check in on what they're doing and see, if you got any suggestions. And then that's how I met the young Joseph.
Yeah, my friend Jim, who we all know and love from this podcast, myself.
To know him.
Is to love him.
Thank you.
And to love him.
Is to know him.
So Jim, myself, and another friend of ours named Steve, we had a show back in '94 on Lexington Public Access. We called it Formal. Actually, Jim called it Formal Edition. That was Jim's one contribution to the show ever, is just naming the show.
Jim was a big boy band fanatic, and I think the Formal Edition was a kind of a trying to get that new kids
right, like not quite new edition, not quite
Frankie Bunch,
right? the Funky Bunch, right, yeah. right. But so we tried to do sketch comedy. It was more like a sit down panel show with some guests, not unlike what we're doing now. But actually, we were a lot less polished then.
It was part pre-canned sketches that we would do, and part of it, like, honestly, Joe was much younger than me, and we would just get to the studio before the other guys and look at the paper, kind of like we do now, like before we start a podcast. What's going on Twitter? What did Bloaters do? Let's talk about that. But we had a news segment, and it was a lot. You shouldn't have that much fun. You know what I mean? And we did. And I don't know how many episodes.
20.
I came in on episode 3 or 4, 4 or 5.
Right.
And then the Misty's Kitchen ended up getting, I don't know if syndicated is the right word, but all the other cable stations around the state were like, can we use this? Can we get I'm like, yeah,
that's syndication.
It was great, and it started to go all through like 26 different stations we ended up sending tapes to.
Did you mention that Misty's Kitchen was the name of the show?
Misty's Kitchen was the name of the video show after my dog Misty at the time. One of the best opening credit sequences, I gotta say, in the history of cable access. But it was a lot. It was so much fun, and the music show helped me get my band to LA, and the comedy show actually opened some doors out there. And Joe came out to LA at one point, and now we had a lot of, we're not going to get to name dropping things, but we had legit celebrities do our skits, do our show, real people like, in the production world.
Butch Patrick.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh, I wish.
So it's funny that the cable access thing led to a real career outside of the area. I got Joe out there too, and like I said, it's funny that we circle back. I'm back here for the first time in like 20 plus years. Joe and I decided, well, let's do something. Do we start doing stand up? Do we do a sketch show? And we're like, we're kind of old and lazy. What's the path to least resistance? Like, let's do a podcast. But then a lot of people, friends and friends of friends, wanted guests to come on, because they don't want to hear Joe's voice, and they really don't want to hear my voice. So they're like, you should fill some time with other people. One person, my sister, said, hey, I just read this book. I've seen this local comedian, great guy, a working comedian, like not a household name. And, she said, I know I have Steve's number. I can put you in touch. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, let me look the guy up. Look the guy up. And the first clip that came up was from your show, one of the shows at your station that you work on. And truly, I'm like, this isn't cable access in 1993 out of Lexington.
Right. First of all, it's in widescreen.
Yeah.
and HD.
You're right.
Studio, like a real studio audience. I mean, yeah, sure. We have our own studio audience. I mean, that's not really that hard to do.
I should get one of those for the studio.
but really, it's I was amazed. It was the production quality, and then, like anything else on YouTube, the link, you fall down the rabbit hole next to it. It's like it takes you to the next clip from the show, and the next clip. It's like, wait a minute, they had Lenny Clark, a band that we've had on our show, The Rationales. It's like they have The Rationales, and I was truly blown away. So we reached out. Jonathan made the mistake of answering the phone and telling us we could come and have a look around, and that brings you to our humble abode.
Well, I'm very glad to be here.
And now let's get into your journey from. Now I went. Don't want to brag. Fitchburg State College, which at the time was the largest state college in the town of Fitchburg. Not a lot of people know that. And you went to...
I went to Fitchburg State College, but then I graduated from Fitchburg State University.
Right. See,
were you able to transfer the credits over? Or was it...
I would say it was easy, but
So we found that we had a lot in common, and then we talked more and more. So we wanted Jonathan to come in and basically bring us up to speed on like the workings of a station and how things have changed since like Wayne's World and our little experience to where you are now.
Yeah, well, community media, as we like to call it these days, has grown up from the cable access or public access most people think of. And actually, if you think about YouTube and the internet and even Twitter and Facebook, video has only gotten more and more important and larger, and people are kind of stepping away from those large media conglomerates to form their own personal brands, to share their own stories, connect with people on a personal level. And that's what community media has done since the beginning. So it's really great that community media has actually grown with the advent of the internet and all these YouTube streaming sites, because there's more of a demand. We can provide better technology. We can train people in media literacy, essentially. Because there's one thing to watch media as an audience and really enjoy what you're watching and just accepting it. It's a whole nother thing to really translate your ideas and translate your sort of personality for the television medium.
It's the good and the bad. It's like the barrier to entry is not there. You know, like you used to have to get your message out there, be it a band, be it a musician, be it any just a personality. But now between Twitter, YouTube, and all that stuff. But the thing is, there's still a difference between, you know, two jerks in a basement with a couple microphones and an absolute studio that has your Skype wall, your Kai running. I mean, when your productions, and truly, when we went in, we saw the other things that, you know, Jonathan has going on there. You can't tell the difference just looking up at the screen if it's MSNBC up there, you know, between the eye candy and all the extras.
Right. I mean, it's a $2 million studio. You have tons of resources and equipment. I mean, everything from professional lighting to monitors, as you mentioned, chroma key, which has always been fun and a little corny, but it's great. It's great. YouTube uses it a lot, so you know the convention's kind of coming back in style with abstract backgrounds, professional microphones, and really, I think more so than any of the equipment and the thing that makes community access centers really special is the training that people come in and the community that's built around it. It's not just you're not just by yourself. You're not just kind of walking in with equipment trying to figure it out on your own, learning over many years. You really come on, you get in and you get onboarded really fast. And our first priority is to help you make a pilot, help you structure. What's your show going to be? How's it going to look? Let's get people together to help you make it. Let's get you connected with other people. It's not just a place to rent equipment. It's really a place to find a home and build a creative community.
And has that been like that since you've been there, or is that something that you've helped evolve?
That has been something I've been really passionate about. Arlington has always been a really great creative town. As you know, it's a large town. It's big enough to be a city, but they've decided to stay a town. We're actually an arts, cultural station in Massachusetts now. That's pretty recent. And when I arrived at Arlington Community Media, it's about 4.5 years ago at this point, we had a great community of media makers and filmmakers and producers and talent. But one thing I really wanted to do when I got there is really make it more of a community. So I started a group called Studio Nights, and it meets on Wednesday nights. It's basically an adult film camp. And people come together. We have free pizza at 6:30. People network. We kind of get people in touch who might have similar ideas or different ideas that could work together really well. And then every week we make a different show. So one night we could be making a newscast. The next night doing stop animation. The next night doing a talk show. And really, by having that, it gives a way for people to come in, join something right away, become part of a group, have an identity, make some friends. And that's really the important thing, as you two know. Like when you have a buddy to make media with, it's so much fun.
So much more. Now, what was a project that you got you jumped on with?
Well, when we went to visit Jonathan for our first time at the Arlington Media studio, I noticed on the wall this Back to the Future poster, but it looked like an advertisement for something that was happening. It wasn't just a regular Back to the Future poster, and what it was, I guess, Arlington Media was one of the collaborators of a larger consortium called Crowdsourced Boston, which I guess was doing their second project 2 years in a row. Last year they had done Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah. This year they were doing Back to the Future, and the concept was that different media centers or filmmakers would contribute a scene to the reenacting a scene or recreating a scene from the movie Back to the Future, and then they would just pool all of the scenes together and splice them together and edit it into one long, basically shot-for-shot remake of Back to the Future. So I and my son were kind of just helping out with camera work, audio.
You also knew every line and every beat by heart. So
you've seen that before. You were familiar with the work. So
creative consultant. Yeah.
I mentioned the project, and I think you had a Back to the Future T-shirt on that day.
Right. I left my Back to the Future socks in the dryer that day.
I think if you look around here, there's a
Back to the Future shelf.
There's a shelf, like a whole.
It's not just a DeLorean. It's a shelf of DeLorean.
Right. It's like 4 or 5 DeLoreans. But so I was very enthusiastic to jump in on and help out any way I could on that project. So I helped edit and but it was a lot of fun and it just kind of introduced me back into the world of video media creation because I took the needle off the record in 1997 when I think we were still using SVHS tapes.
What a
And
pain.
then-
And that was a big
That-
deal when it went from 3/4 to SVH.
Right. I still have the 3/4 master tapes of our old show from '94.
You know, we do
have
have an archive station, so if you wanted to come in and remaster those and put them up, you could do a like Mystery Science Theater remix of your show.
I might take you up on that.
We might want to do that.
We may want to archive our show.
Public might want to burn it.
Right. Exactly, right.
Because it's funny because we still, we have a friend who was at the time a professor at Harvard that we spoofed on a show. Because it was syndicated, like people at Harvard, his friends, saw it in Cambridge, and here it is 20 years later, and our friend Ross will still be like, "Oh, how's that show Physics Today going?" They'll still,
Right. A bi-weekly show for the serious physicist.
I won't do justice. Just quickly tell Jonathan what the premise of the show was.
Oh, I came up with a premise where it was a sketch where you would have this panel show called Physics Today, and you would have a moderator and two members of the physics community debating or just talking about the latest in physics. And one would be, a renowned physicist, Ross,
Dr. Ross
Salowich, played by me. And then, of course, we would have an opposing view, which in this case was a rerun of Alice.
The TV show Alice.
So it's just like, it was a total,
The look on Jonathan's face is exactly the look you usually get when you explain a skit that Joe and I did.
Right.
Like most, there were so many skits that we would do that Joe would pitch that just sounded horrible. And then you do them like, okay, that's fun. And then there's sometimes like I would come up with an idea and I'm like, I don't even want to say the words out loud that I want to put in a skit. I would just say, you stand here, we do this, and we'll cut it together. Trust me, it will be awful, but there might be a semblance of comedy. But that was one of the ones that it's like, I'm very proud of that one. I mean, mostly because we got to incorporate the TV show Alice.
Oh, yeah. And we also got to showcase that the rerun of Alice wrote a book.
Because that's why the rerun was on, to promote it.
Yeah, it was to plug a book, right.
So when we started to do cable stuff, honestly, we didn't have to fight to get airtime because it was us or a repeat of the school lunches in the town. The rest of the day, just a static menu like message board.
Now, what's funny? You think that's just there when there's no other programming. So in Arlington, we're lucky. We have a really great community of content makers. We have to schedule the bulletin board because we're contractually obligated to show that, to give a form to let people know about upcoming events or upcoming meetings. We actually have to schedule that. And it's grown up to, if you haven't seen the channel in a while, take a look at it. We have our graphic designers actually go in and make it look pretty. So it's up to today's graphical standards.
Right. And it's not just one channel that Arlington Media has. It's 3 separate channels.
It's 3. And most stations in Massachusetts, we're very lucky here. We have a community media station in almost every city in town. So if you're listening to this and you're in Massachusetts, there's probably like $1 million studio right in town. You can go in and get training. It's wonderful. But we have 3 stations. We're called a PEG station, which stands for Public, Education, and Government. Although I think our government access coordinator, Sean, would love to play video games and make it stand for G for gaming. But
I like him already.
He's great. But last we have to show the selectmen meeting, which is great. So it's like our local C-SPAN. So government, it's not just school committee and the selectmen, finance, anything you want to find out about what's going on in the town. You can actually watch the meetings if you can't go there. And then there's other people who will make shows analyzing that information, highlighting, following the money. Where's the money go from what gets allocated in the meeting to somebody on the street? Or we'll have the Council on Aging find out what money is coming into the town to provide services for people and how they can get access to them. So it's really incredible, the breadth.
Well, it's funny because you said C-SPAN. And I know a lot of people think about, oh, that's really entertaining. It was 25, 30 years ago. I accidentally ran for office. And in the process of doing that, it became aware to me that who's in the White House is very, very important. But also in your day-to-day life, your school committee has more direct impact on your day-to-day life if you have kids in school or if you don't. There's federal and state things, but on a local level, who picks up your trash? And what the town pays for this or those are things that you have a direct say on.
Exactly.
That a lot of people don't realize. The local school committees, the local school boards, the dog catcher elections, are in some cases a lot more important on a day-to-day basis for the average person. And that's something that I think gets completely overlooked.
It does. And I think it's interesting, the climate that we live now. I think everything is so politicized. And the advantage to that is that everyone's paying attention. Everyone's really hyper-focused on what's going on, where do funds go, who is... who are making the decisions that affect our everyday lives. But basically, you have debates on TV. You can actually watch the meetings. You can hold people accountable. That's really what we're doing. Like there's government transparency. So back in the day when community media started, government organizations didn't want their meetings filmed. We had to fight for that. So the people who started Arlington Community Media, they would go in with their portable equipment, bring a whole studio on
a cart.
On carts.
Here comes the AV club.
Right, exactly. And fight for the right to be in those meetings, to let the people know what's happening, to have a public record of what debate went into certain issues and how we came to those decisions, and have a public forum for people to voice their opinions and really find out that information. And nowadays we get calls from every meeting, like every committee. We have calls to cover more meetings than we can actually have capacity for.
And what's great now is that, now that community media is not just community media, because of the internet, it could be posted on their website and then seen and shared throughout the entire world.
Yeah. A great example of that was the Steve Katzo show that we talked about. That's all over the world. It's airing on cable in many different countries.
My name is Steve Katzos, and it's my dream to help creative people get their art out to the world. That's why my friends and I have been developing this late-night talk show from New England. To date, our program has aired in 15 countries, all with a budget of $0. That's right, we're volunteers, and we use the power of freedom of speech to create international television shows from a small public studio. And if we can do this, then you can do anything you want to do. Follow your dreams.
But it's not just that show. We have a great producer. His name is Alan Kaufman, who does a show called In the Tradition, among many other shows. But that's his flagship show. And recently, he just showed me his analytics of where his show is. His show is all over the world. There's people watching in Iraq, and Russia, and Australia, and New Zealand. It's amazing. It's everywhere. And the average length that people are watching his show is 11 minutes. That's
a long time.
That's a long time, especially online. And it's great that somebody can come in with an idea or a passion. We can help them get the skills that they need, to give them the encouragement and build a community around them and their ideas, and really help them create something that's seen all over the world, not just syndicated in the United States, but really just have access to everywhere. And it also works on the opposite end, too. We have shows that are topical about issues that are affecting all of us all around the world. And using Skype, we can just pipe in guests from all over the planet to be on someone's local community show. It's like, how are you connecting the global to local relationship?
You also have like lots of programs that we saw that, because Joe and I have no lives and we do a lot of gaming. You had some gaming show that, and I don't know, like it was a kid's show, but it was this really kind of cool thing that you had going on.
It was great. We have, anything you're interested in. There was a show about, so the kids show. And I have a funny story about that. It's a gaming program. It's basically they have a different theme occasionally, so they'll have young people play old games and old people play new games. And sort of like the kids don't know how to figure it out. They don't know why to keep dying, and it's really hard. Right. Or the adults, just running around in a circle in 3D. Right. Trying to do like a first-person shooter. So our youth group also covers all of the sport games. So they go on the field, they go live, and video club kids are not necessarily maybe the same people playing all the sports. Maybe we are, but we're not. We're filming the games. And one year we had a batch of kids who didn't really understand how the games were played, like where the ball was supposed to go, what points are supposed to be what. I honestly am not well versed in that either. But what we did is we developed a video game show. And after we played some fun, Mario type games, we started switching to sports games.
Oh.
And so we had them play, Madden and all other sports games, so they would actually learn the rules of sports, figure out where the balls are going to go, what types of shots, like how is the ball being tracked, how are the players being tracked, what's happening overhead, what's happening on the ground, so that they could develop a language and a sense of vision for when they went to cover the sports games. They already had that relationship from their sports show.
That's a lot of legwork to put into something like that, which is fantastic. And when does it start? I mean, how young do you get kids coming in to do this?
We have all ages. So our main youth programs, the middle school has a media program within the middle school. So if you're a middle school student or know somebody, they can join ONN, the Arlington News Network, with Edith Morsan over there. She's wonderful. Then we have an after-school high school program where high school students come in. It's called Focus Media. It's once a week after school, and they film all different types of events, musicians. They can make their own shows. They do interviews. And then ACMI will go to elementary schools to help people film with their iPads, to cover events, do stop animation, that type of thing. And then studio nights is open to all ages. So we have, people from 7 to 70 and older and younger, sometimes even coming in.
See, because, I mean, it's fun. It's like one of the great things about Fitchburg. Did I just say?
That's a weird start to a
wow.
sentence.
I know.
But at the same time, when I got into Fitchburg, I opened the door. When I started to go to Fitchburg in '89, I had a stepbrother who was going to Emerson. And the funny thing is, day one at Fitchburg, you could just check out anything you want. There was no wait. There was no, if the camera's here, go ahead. Take it, bring it home. And the same thing when Joe started working, doing the cable show, you're 15, and it's like, oh, here's the camera, and here's the typical, like the gigantic briefcase 3-light kit.
I didn't even have a driver's license, and I'm hauling away like $10,000 cameras.
Yeah.
And the great thing about that, there weren't a lot of programs to teach you how to do it, but it's like, I've come from the school of thought, and I've found this out myself, working in the industry so long. The only way to really learn is to actually do it. It's great that you have these programs that you can also incorporate it. And it's also great, what I think is encouraging, it sees the light of day.
Yeah.
And again, you went to Fitchburg. There's so many people who do these student films that other than the people in the class, back then would never see them.
Right.
Here's a cable access show that gets syndicated globally. And again, where you have so much eye candy and you have, all the bells and whistles, and it's posted on YouTube, Twitter, wherever the kids put things, and it looks great. I mean, right? There's no reason to not do something, knowing that it's going to get seen or it's going to get out there. It's not going to just die in a basement.
Well, yeah, and just the access to the software available, like the post-production software that you can get at a community media. I'm old school, man. I can't stop saying public access. I don't know what to name this episode: public access or community media. Or Wayne's World Grill. I keep referencing that because honestly, that's when Joe and I were doing a show that's the only thing we could tell people about. It's like, oh, you have a comedy show? What's it like? Well, where do I see it? It's kind of like Wayne's World. It's on Access. Go to where you see menus for the lunches, or the one camera shoot with bad audio, and and somebody automatically accidentally leaving the autofocus on. So as one person would walk to ask a question at one of these town hall meetings, it would fuzz everything out for about 5 or 6 seconds. I mean, that's what it used to be.
Well, think about when people come into community TV, what they're watching on TV, their frame of reference is Game of Thrones and Ellen. The bar is so high with what's on television these days that people come into a vision that really is a challenge, kind of bridging what they want to do with the quality that their friends and family and strangers are going to watch. So that's why community media is really so important. You could open up your laptop and record something off of your laptop camera or your iPhone, and you can do a lot with your iPhone. But it's not just the technology. It really is the technique and really learning how to create something and having a coach and having some support.
That's a spotter, basically.
Right, exactly. And so that's what community media really, that's what we really try to do, at least at ACMI, is really set you up with someone who's going to be your coach or cheerleader and make sure you're going to create something that you're proud of and learn a lot as you go through progressively. Day one, we're not going to let anybody walk out with something that's out of focus, that's a single camera. You're going to walk away with something that's hopefully even bigger than you imagined and sustainable and connect you with the people that can actually keep you going.
Well, and like you've already hit it. The best part that for me doing the podcast is doing it with a friend, and like you said, the whole thing. If you're walking in there, and whether it's just your studio nights where you might know some people you're meeting up with there, or not know people when you get there and come away with ideas for stuff. That again, everybody has great ideas, but in a situation like this, you can go from idea to actually making something happen.
Oh yeah, our average time when people come in with an idea to meet with us to when they have a pilot is about 4 to 5 weeks. So you can come in and about a little bit more than a month later have something real, and not just going to be talking the talk. You're going to be walking the walk and having some friends, hopefully, that you can go and make more shows with and have access to equipment. So you come in with one idea with yourself, and you leave with a community, a crew, millions of dollars, and access to equipment, a syndication network, and really just the support to keep going.
Like when Joe and I started doing this back then, they were just so thankful to have anything. It seems like now it becomes like you guys have so much stuff. It becomes, how do you schedule it all in?
I actually, that is a question I've always had. So when from when I've been there to now, we've, increased, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's gotten busier. Our quality standards have gotten even better. So I actually, just last year, spent a few years leading up to it getting certified in project management just to keep up with
nice.
as a PMP, just to really keep up with the flow and figure out how do we reach our goals, satisfy our stakeholders, essentially, the people that are coming into the community and also the viewers, and create something that's sustainable that can keep growing. And so, I came into this world with the TV background, and now I have this whole project management background just to kind of keep up with the workflow and the quality that we're trying to keep up with. So, education, always trying to learn more to create a product.
I think it's great, and it's something that's not really, I don't know, like discussed. Like you see, like we were talking about, like everybody has their own YouTube channel now. Everybody has their own, Snapchat, their iPhone. Like they have an instant television network to the 5, like our podcast, like 5 people listen to this, but
6, I'll be listening.
Right, exactly. Our newest listener.
We'll apologize now.
Right, that's how we keep the podcast going, is that we just keep inviting people to join us on our podcast. But now it's important to sort of like let people know that you can actually do a much better version of your crappy one camera basement show in a studio with lights and people who know how to light things and post-production software and editing software that costs thousands of dollars that you can't afford on your $10 an hour job.
Interesting question. I was thinking this. So you guys, when they put on YouTube, who owns it? Like somebody comes in and does a show, be whatever it is, whose YouTube channel does it go on? Does it go on, Joe's YouTube channel? Does it go on the station's YouTube channel? Does it go on who has ownership of the stuff that is produced?
So the owner's always with the producer. So if you come in and you have a show that's your idea, it's yours. So it's not like, Tetris, you invent it, we're going to take all the proceeds from it forever. No, it's your show. We're really, the purpose of community media is to help you execute your First Amendment right. We want you to have a voice, to promote free speech and really share who you are.
He's taking a knee as he's saying this, so just to let everybody know.
Tears coming to my eye. And so it's nonprofit. We're not even really connected with the government. We're our own independent nonprofit. We're paid for by the cable subscribers. So when you have cable in your home, a portion of that comes back to your community for community access. So you're already paying for all of this. We're here because you paid for us. Mm-hmm. And so you own the rights. What we do is we'll have permission to air it in the communities. That's sort of the trade-off. If you create something with us, we want to be able to share it in kind with the community forever. But essentially, the new things that are always coming up. So if you're entering a film festival and you need it not to be airing anywhere, that's fine. Put it in the film festival. When you win all your awards, let us know. Then we'll start airing it on television. You want to put it online. We have an on-demand service or access on our website, acmi.tv. And the way it works is it actually patches through YouTube or Vimeo and pulls those videos into our page. And we want to drive traffic to your video. And so we'll have you put it on your own YouTube page, but then we'll route your video through our website. So essentially, we'll get the website hit, you'll get the video view.
And now, when you said like some of the shows that you have are seen all over the place, is it just they're being seen in other cable stations? But when you're talking abroad, are you talking cable stations in those different countries? Like at one point you mentioned Iraq. I mean,
that must have been online. I think that was a Vimeo view. So somebody had some sort of proxy and gone
right. Somebody had a VPN somewhere.
VPN and to watch the show, but it's amazing. It's still even made, and syndication is still a big thing. The internet plays into that. We recently have a children's show called Hugh Hanley's Circle of Songs, or Songs from the Circle, depending if it's a concert or a specific episode they flip. Mm-hmm. And he's made, he's been making a show for years, and now he's decided he wants to branch out of Arlington and really share his product with the world.
Concord? Oh, okay.
The whole world, the whole entire world. Right. And so we have there's two media platforms to do that. There's Teleview Connect, which is mostly in Massachusetts. It also happens to be on the coast, so I think it's a lot of the coastal cities pick that up. So what you'll do is just submit your show, give us a description, and we'll post it online, and then other access centers will get a newsletter each week letting them know what the latest shows are. And so if you keep your show to exactly 28 minutes or 58 minutes, other stations can pull it into their scheduling real easily. And then once you're in 4 different towns, 4 different centers, at that point you can be uploaded to what's called PEG Media, again, Public Education and Government, and that's national. And then you can be picked up anywhere else in the country. And
how many shows do you think you have going now that are on the PEG network?
Well, the Steve Katzo show is on the PEG network, but mostly right now they're on the Teleview Connect because they actually has a pretty countrywide reach already, and there's a little bit more work involved to get the episodes to the exact length and specifications for that larger branch. But we have 3 different shows right now on syndication, and we have more and more people are asking to get on.
And recruitment and new people coming in. It's like, what is the outreach to get people to know what you're doing?
Besides doing a crappy podcast.
No, this podcast is great, and I never get to be on. Like I said earlier, I never get to be on this side of the
speaking side.
I never get to be in the speaking side. I'm always in the control room, making sure everything is up and running, or sending out emails. It's fun to just kind of come in and
well, if you want to edit this podcast, I can just send you the raw footage. And
but do you guys? I mean, is there a steady flow of like new people coming in?
We have a steady flow of new people coming in all the time. We do outreach by going to town-wide events. It's like Town Day. It's a big festival in Arlington, and we'll try to showcase a lot of our videos, have our producers come in. Word of mouth is a big one. You have one person in your show, they get another buddy to work on the show with you.
And then they tell 2 friends.
And so on.
And so on.
Yeah, and so forth. Also, we try to have a lot of events. We try to really create events and activities that people will like. So the studio nights, for example, we have a consistent group that's every Wednesday night. We also have a Arlington Public News department. So we have local news right in Arlington, about Arlington, made by Arlington residents. And people come in through that way. They were interviewed on the news, or they see the news, or they're interested in politics and what's going on. So they come in and get trained for the news. Or other events like a Crowdsource Boston.
Yeah.
We thought that would be a really fun way to get creative people to come in. So we're always looking out for film festivals or putting on festivals. Earlier this summer, we put on a Fido Fest. So it's a dog video festival. It was outdoors and a big screen in the Spy Pond Field. And we had dogs come. They could bring their humans with them to watch the movies they made.
Nice.
And it was a lot of fun. So we are just trying everything we can. Events, film festivals.
And the kids in schools, too.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And so you've been with them for 5 years now?
Almost. It's been 4.5.
4.5 years. And is this like something, because, again, my friend, I think I already mentioned her, Kim, who works down at the Plymouth station. She's been in cable a long time. I'm not going to throw out a year. Exactly. But it seems like something that is like, you can get into and have your whole career there.
Yeah, it's great. I actually grew up in community media. When I was a kid, I grew up in Stoneham, Massachusetts, so I was part of Stone TV. When I was just a student, I loved it. I would hog the technical director switcher all the time. No one else was allowed to use it. I would just cut between the same shots, even as long as it's like a star wipe or fade to black in the middle of an interview. I loved it. I wouldn't let anyone else touch it.
Right. You're like Commander of the Death Star there. Like, yeah,
I loved it. I thought I was going to warp speed.
Right.
Pull the lever. And then I got a little older and started to volunteer on their events. And then in high school, I was hired to cover government meetings. And then later on in high school, I was their administrative assistant. And then throughout college, I worked there as their production and training coordinator. I worked there a little bit after college. Then I went off to be a script supervisor. Lived in New York for a few years. Came back.
What script supervising for what? Anything fun?
Oh yeah, lots of stuff. And I still script supervise from time to time. A lot of Hasbro commercials, toy commercials,
nice.
Independent films, HBO, Showtime, HGTV, like all the major players. It was a lot of fun. But community media is great for work-life balance. I love being able to help people, watch them grow, provide training. It's just nice. It's really great to work with people who have creative vision and motivated by their dreams and helping them make their dreams come true. It's just, I mean, what could be a better way to spend a day working?
Do you have this was my favorite show moment? Do you have a favorite story from like any show that you've worked on that you're like, this was great, this was really great? Or do you have oh my God, I can't believe I had to work on that. please have that person never come back in with another idea again.
Oh man, pick a favorite. This is corny. It's like that. They're all my favorite.
We say that about our kids, but
Yeah.
Right. We really know. That
We know.
Yeah.
You know what? The Steve Katzo show is interesting. When I first got hired to work with Arlington Community Media almost 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I came in and I've never seen anything like that in community media either. It's really special and unique. And it's on Tuesday nights and it goes all the way basically till 10 o'clock at night. And when I first got there, I was really overwhelmed with the level of engineering and complexity and just dealing with, they have a crew of 40 people, an audience of over 10, and the guest, I don't even know. It's probably close to 80 people there once a week when they're filming. And when I first started working there, I really felt overwhelmed and kind of stressed out and apprehensive about,
and they were already 4 years into it.
Right, and they were already 4 years into it, and it was really stressful for me. So I guess this is my hate it and love it. So when I first started, I really had a hard time keeping up with everything that was there because there was so much going on. And it really was one of those things that I gained skills and became more competent in the audio engineering and the video engineering and just dealing with people and getting to know them and kind of getting their acceptance. Now it's one of my favorite things that I do look forward to, that I love to promote. But for a long time, it really caused me a lot of stress having to
80
keep up
people
with that speed.
Is a lot.
It is a lot of people. But, you kind of grow with it and rise to the challenge, which I think is the whole thing of Steve's show. It's, follow your dreams. And it really... it's one of those things where I can look back and thought this was so much, and now when I go, it's great and it's a lot of fun to deal with people. And it's kind of like I can measure myself. I can measure my journey at ACMI through that show.
Right. It's a gauntlet that you have to go through to sort of check to see if this is something you really wanted to do, or if it's just sort of a fancy that you're maybe not that into, and the stick-to-itiveness. Like that's the thing is you have to keep going back each and every week and stick with it and learn and grow with it. Not like what we do here. We just
and it's interesting. Like for my own journey, I grew up in media, making shows, working in professional crews and sets all the time, and working at Arlington Community Media has really kind of made me fall in love. But I always still in love with video. Video always going to be my first love, but really just like the project management side and like the people side, and basically finding how do you support all of these people with basically free. There's no resources. I mean, we have equipment and supplies, but like how do you support all these people with zero budgets?
Right.
Making these shows. And I've really kind of grown to love that whole
the production side.
The production side and sort of figuring out like allocating resources and people and trying to create aggressive like timetables. So from the day you conceive something to the throughput when it's out on TV, like how do we compress that so we can get more people coming in and provide more resource for the staff and for the community? Just by asking all those questions, it's really been something that's in my own life that I'm very passionate about now that I wasn't necessarily when I came in thinking about it on the abstracting that level.
Now, when you go to a other towns, and you work with other towns and cables, and quite sure there's like, conventions or gatherings of people with your. Does everybody share the same? Because you have a lot of passion. I mean, seriously. I mean, he's like glowing like a Christmas tree as he's saying this. It's not. It's like 90% of the stuff that I say is pure bullshit. And it's like, oh no, it's really great to be here. But you're either an amazing actor or you really are passionate about this, and is that typical of the people who work in this field?
Oh, absolutely. It really is. I think, the people who work in community media are really passionate about a lot of things. I think, first and foremost, they're passionate about community. That is the first thing. If you don't have a community, you don't have anything. You have a bunch of...
It's in the name, community media.
Yeah, community media. It really is the most important thing. You have a dedication to, service, really figuring... Like, you're working with other nonprofits, you're working with artists, you're working with people that have creative aspirations or educational aspirations, you're working with other small businesses, you're constantly in the thick of all of these people trying to communicate what they're doing, to try to get more people to work with them, to try to create something beautiful and attractive and ongoing, and to be able to build a system or train people on how to use equipment or connect them with somebody else that they go and create something that's bigger than they ever could have before, or watch an organization grow, or watch an intern even come in and have the theory but really develop the skills and go in local news, and other affiliate stations. It's really I think a lot of access professionals really share that love of watching something grow and helping to seed all of these different pieces to let things flourish, to get bigger and bigger next time. Because we're always starting with new people. We're always coming in with people who don't know how to have those skills, and then we get them to a certain level, and they go off. They either move on to the real network world, or they're forming their own groups. They don't need us so much anymore. So you really have to have a love of educating, fostering growth, and watching people succeed.
Now, to put you completely on the spot,
okay.
when you're saying about like basically a love for the First Amendment, have you ever had to deal with, let's say, some fine folks from Charlottesville want to come in and they want their show? How do you? I mean, you have to leave like your ideology out the door, so to speak. Yeah. I'm guessing. Have you ever had to deal with that? Like, oh, really? I'm helping the white people power hour get off the ground and find their audience. Like Alex Jones knocks on the door this week and says, "Hey, I kind of want to do a show here." And my friend Rush Limbaugh is going to stop by. And
well, not even just that. I mean, that sometimes even people want to air a show in their community because that's part of their town, their station. So, we've definitely had to deal. I've had to deal with that in the past. Arlington, not so much. Arlington tends to be a pretty blue town.
Yeah.
But other places where I've worked, we had people come in that don't necessarily have the same view that I do. But it's not about me. It's really about,
like, they have their tiki torches, let's say, and then
okay. Well, there's a line between hate speech and free speech. I believe right. that. Not necessarily everybody would agree with me.
But I'm sure that there is sort of like a right to refuse certain.
No. Do you have a no shoes, no shirt, no service sign?
Well, no, we're actually going through and rewriting our user policies right now, as a matter of fact, and we're having these discussions as a staff. Like, what do we decide what is allowed versus what constitutes maybe something that's disingenuous that crosses a line, and it gets harder and harder these days to figure out what that is. But obviously, if it's to go on TV to defame somebody or just spew hatred, that's not going to be tolerated. But if you're a citizen in this government here and you have a certain belief and you want to convince people of your ideas, or you want to share your ideas, so people aren't living necessarily in a bubble all the time, you want to get outside ideas. That's what we're going to be here to support. And the key thing about community media, it's not my TV station, it's not just yours, it's everybody's. So we have to be inclusive, and that's really important, especially in a world that's becoming so much more polarizing. I think hearing ideas, having discussions, and just listening and watching to people who we don't necessarily agree with is not a bad thing to keep going
I know that's kind of like a loaded question, but I would, because honestly, if I was in that position and somebody came in, it's like, I don't know how much I could be like, oh, this is what you're shooting. You might want to shoot it like this because it looks better. This is a really great way to incorporate social media into your thing, like I would something else. So I don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, it's always biased on how much you want to get involved with something, but I always have to be careful, even with things I do agree with. If any one of our if any staff, and I have, just to put out there, we have our executive director Norm and our studio manager, Jeff, and they really are paramount in creating the type of station that we run, and they do a great job, and we get to help a lot of different people. But anyone of our, anyone on staff, if you have to decide how much are you going to help, because whatever you do for one person, it's not fair if you don't do it for everybody else. You have to provide the same level of service. Like, I've had people come in with have different political opinions, or even different of opinions where they think the money should go in town. Because we're dealing with government. It's not just someone's ideas or someone's shouting out through the window. A lot of people want to respond directly to government meetings that they saw, or respond directly to officials or people running that they agree or disagree with. And what we'll try to do to keep things fair is provide a platform and opportunity for the other side. So if we have a Democrat come in and during an election, for example, and they want to have a discussion, we'll go to them and say, instead of just having a discussion with another Democrat, what do you think about us? We'll reach out for you and get the Republican view or the independent view, and we can have a debate. So we really do encourage that. We'll reach out to other sides.
Have you done some of that?
Yeah, we have. So we actually won a Hometown Media Award, which is a national recognition from the Alliance for Community Media, the whole national community media organization, for state level debates that we've run at Arlington Community Media. So
were they fair and balanced?
They were fair. They were fair and balanced debates. Actually, and that's part of what our news and government department really work on. We have a certain allocated amounts of time. Everyone gets a chance to speak. Everyone is invited, and everyone has a chance to respond. And we have moderators who do their best to make that conversation happen. So it's not so much what my view is or what someone else's view or your view is. If you want to come in and put the work and put the dedication into creating a show about something that you're passionate about, and you're open to hear other ideas and open to improving and open to discussing things with everybody else, who cares about my personal opinion? It's really about their personal opinion.
How do people get in touch with you if you want people to get in touch with you?
Well, you can. Oh, you're talking to Jonathan.
Not you, Joe.
No one wants to get in touch with us.
Okay, well, if you want to get in touch with Arlington Community Media, you can visit our website at acmi.tv. You can also schedule an appointment to get a tour of the place, or if you want to come and just watch shows with us or learn to make a show, you can call us at 781-777-1115. If you want to email me directly, you can do so at jonathan@acmi.tv. And if you're just listening and you're interested in project management like I am, you can follow me on Twitter at Jonathan Barbado.
Could you spell that? Because
yeah, so it's Jonathan, Jonathan. It's my last name, Barbado, Barbato.
How would if we move the show to your station, how do the defunct sponsors fit in? Are we allowed to keep getting that sweet defunct sponsor money, because it flows?
You're highly encouraged to continue that, and I would hope you guys come in and do a TV show version of this. It'd be really great.
I don't think the public wants that.
I just don't know how we could get the shelf of shame.
Oh God!
There, because how could we do our thing without
green screen, my friend?
Okay.
Or you could just do it here. I have a whole vision. I can picture it now. We'll light your awesome shelves with like blue and red LED lights coming from the bottom.
How much electricity do you think I have down here? I have knob and tube wiring, my friend.
We have battery powered lights that we can do with some gel.
All right.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of three of us we have a lot of production skills and production experience. I mean, you kind of built this whole studio down here, and you've been out to Los Angeles, and I've had my whole life in media. But if you're listening and you have an idea for a TV show, or even it doesn't necessarily need to be that involved, if you have an idea of something that you want to share, or a talent, or you think cool people who might even know cool people that they want to showcase, come into ACMI or your local community station, wherever you are, and just talk to somebody, because you don't need to have the skills coming in. We hope you don't, because we want to to help you grow those skills.
We want to mold you and sculpt you into our image.
Now, you got to be careful throwing that out there because, like, where Joe and I, when we had a show that was doing pretty okay, when we were doing stand up, you would have people come up all the time. It's like, I got this idea. This guy meets this girl, and a bunch of stuff happens, and then what do you think of that? And you're like, oh, that's fantastic.
And then I'll say, well, why don't you become a member and then we'll sit down and
take off the tinfoil hat.
Right. We'll have a pre-production meeting. I mean, a lot of people come in. Like for example, we have a new member who just joined, and she's a holistic nurse, and she's had her whole journey of working in Western medicine and kind of exploring Eastern medicine and wanting people to really explore options, be able to talk to their doctor, and she knows that's what she's done personally. And she came in because it seemed like a fun thing to do, and she saw other people working on their shows and talked to other people who do health shows or nature shows, and she's got inspired to make her own program. And so last week we just met and sort of talked about how do we take what she's done and her own background and turn that into a show? Like what?
A wacky sitcom?
Wacky sitcom? No, but
so the neighbor is this guy who.
Yeah, well, like a talk show. Like if you have knowledge. If you have knowledge and you've been in a certain industry for a lot of years, or retired, or you are maybe changing careers, and you want to share what you've already learned, or you want to document your journey, come in. I mean, everybody has so much to share, and the more we create, the more of us that we can. All of us can share that knowledge. It's not just trapped with one person.
Well, the one thing that I've taken away from this conversation and learning about community media is that there is absolutely no money in it. So
no, there's no money. But if people recognize you in town and you have a favorite place to eat, maybe they'll give you some free food.
Right. Yes.
Also, you can get sponsored. So
actually, yeah, you guys had a pizza sponsor.
Oh, back in the old days.
But you actually did, right?
No, they gave us pizza. They sponsored us with pizza.
Yeah.
Right,
but we produced a commercial for them.
Right. No, I
don't know how legal that was, but whatever.
Yeah.
It depends station by station.
Yeah.
It's not a commercial, it's a sponsorship.
Exactly. Right.
So, Jonathan, thank you so much for making time to come over here. And first of all, you took a risk to come over to two really strange guys' house.
Yeah, a stranger's house.
We're going to do this show in our basement.
Right.
Leave your phone outside.
Right.
And, come on in here. No, that doesn't have anything to do with, like, Saw or Hostel or any. No bad movie has ever started with that premise. But seriously, thank you so much. We will put all, the address and your emails up on the page. When the show posts.
That's great, and I'll give you the date for the Back to the Future screenings. That you should definitely check that out.
Oh, we definitely will.
Yeah, and so if you do, those of you who are still listening to our podcast, if you want to find all of these wonderful links, please visit us on our Facebook page, Carnival Personnel or Carnival Podcast. I screwed that up.
Yeah, Carnival Podcast.
I really screwed that up.
Want to do it again?
It's Carnival. No, I don't want to do it. It's Carnival.
You're lying, George. You're lying.
I know, right? I say 5 things in this entire podcast, and I flub the one line. No, but it's Carnival Podcast on Facebook, Carnival Podcast on Twitter. It should be Carnival Personnel, but I underestimated the spelling ability of our audience to spell personnel.
Is it one N, 2 N?
It's 2 N,
2 N's,
2 N's, 1 L, and a partridge in a pear tree.
And the number 3 is silent.
Right. But yeah, follow us there, and then you'll see all of the great links to acmi.tv and Jonathan's information.
Thank you again, Jonathan. And most importantly, please do not forget